Right then, it's time to get my special guest on my next show now. I have Steve. He's from a band called the Hollywood Allstars. Welcome, Steve Gaspar, to my show. How we doing?
Thank you, Dan. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the time.
And from Hollywood in Birmingham, am I speaking to you on the USA, Hollywood, California? Are you there at the moment?
We're actually on the East Coast presently. It's Hollywood Music East. We're actually doing some work here in Connecticut and New York at the time.
Oh, very nice indeed. Okay, so my first question I'm going to ask for you today is, in your band, how many people are in your band and who are the band members?
Well, Dan, it's actually a rather large group. It's 13 pieces,
Mm.
and it includes some really talented artists. We have the horn section is the Uptown Horns. A lot of people may remember them. They did the Rolling Stones Steel Wheels tour. They've worked with Joe Cocker, the Jay Giles Band. Really a wonderful history of one of the best rock and roll horn sections in the business. Our lead vocalist, Tommy Bowes, is from the Tower of Power. Our bass player, Scott Spray, has toured and worked with Johnny and Edgar Winter for years, was in Johnny's touring band before Johnny passed. I've worked with James Brown, B.B. King, Peter Criss from Kiss, Gene Cornish from the Rascals. So it really is a wonderful collection of artists that have worked with a lot of different people in contemporary music and have come together to put together our own thing.
Brilliant. Hence the name Hollywood All Stars. It seems you got a full house of well-known people there. Fantastic. So you're in the USA at the moment. And I know you Hollywood All Stars. Has Hollywood always been a big part of your life?
It has. You know what, Dan? It became a nickname of mine because I've always enjoyed things that are over the top. Particularly when it came to putting this band together. We're living in a time when people are really cutting back on all of their projects and the size of things. And, the idea to come out with a 13-piece group in this economy and this time, day and age was kind of bizarre. But, I've always loved things that are over the top. And I, in a way, felt kind of responsible to keep this music alive and be able to bring it to a younger audience that may not have ever experienced a group of this size.
Yeah, unbelievable. First time I've interviewed an artist with a band of of that many people in it. It's good. And your Hollywood name, Hollywood All Stars. How long have you been together? Does your story go back to like the 70s?
Well, you know what? Relatively speaking, it's a new group. It's about 6 or 7 years old. But, when we first put the group together, what we decided we would do would be to put together a set list of songs by many of the artists that we had all either recorded or toured with. And it was sort of a glorified cover band at the time. And then, of course, COVID hit and everybody was locked up for 2 years. And it was during that period, Dan, that I decided if I were going to take this act to the next level, it really meant writing original material for it. And it was during COVID that I really sat down and kicked myself in the butt and decided, let's write some songs for this. And being a Grammy nominated songwriter, it was something that was very near and dear to my heart. And it was during that time that we put the EP together. And, it was really extraordinary that about 3 months after it was finished, we got signed to a 3-year record deal. It was picked up rather quickly. So, you know what? I'm hopeful that there are a lot of people out there that are going to be excited to hear this.
Fantastic. And being a original artist, songwriting is such an art form. You have to be very talented to do that.
Well, you know what? I really truly believe it really is all about the song. There's no shortage of very talented artists out there now, whether they're musicians or producers. But really, when you get right down to it, we have nothing without a great song to start with. So, I do believe very strongly that the strength of the song is going to dictate the rest of the project.
So, a great song is key.
Absolutely.
Cool, cool. Speaking of singles, I've got your current single, The Field of Grace. What's the track about?
You know what, Dan? It's really sort of a contemporary breakup song. We've all been in relationships, and in the beginning of a relationship, everything is, you're in the honeymoon phase where everyone's loving every little detail about the other person. And as time goes on, unfortunately, sometimes the things that were most endearing that you found very attractive in the beginning start to grate on you and you start to see little chinks in the armor. I like to call Field of Grace a mini movie where it chronicles a relationship from the very beginning, where everything is wonderful, all the way through to the end. By the time the guitar solo comes in, you can literally see the relationship going up in flames. So it's sort of my contemporary version of a love/breakup song.
Would you say it's kind of bittersweet in places? In that,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. There's a line in the song, "Whatever happened to our field of grace?" Which sort of means, what happened to those days in the beginning when we found everything about each other endearing, and now not so much.
It's not the same as it used to be, is it?
Yes, absolutely.
But I did listen to your track, and it features a nice cornucopia of instruments. You've got all types of instrumentation going on in the song.
Well, you know what? This is, again, that kind of leans to the production part of the record. With a 13-piece band and 13 incredible musicians, I really wanted to try to give each and every one of them their moment to shine. And I think we were successful in doing that. It's funny that a lot of people who know me as a keyboard player are, taken aback at first listen, thinking they're going to be hearing, piano and organ blaring all over the place. And it really is rather minimal, intentionally so, in order to be able to give the guitar, the bass, the drums, the horn section, the vocals, everyone a chance to shine.
So 13 for you is a lucky number, and there's basically room for everyone to show their talents.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, listen, I feel blessed to be surrounded by these musicians, and I do want to be able to feature them all.
Cool. And will you be touring Europe in the foreseeable future?
We're working in the States right now, Dan. Something that I did want to mention to you, which sort of ties into our live performance. We are currently entered into a contest here in the U.S. It's called Opening Act. And the cool thing and I'm not a big when it comes to songwriting contests and such, I'm not a big fan of any of them. However, this one in particular, the winner is chosen by votes and will be given the opportunity to perform in front of an 18,000 seat arena, which would do wonders for us being able to promote our record. So, for all your listeners out there, it's called Opening Act. And if you could find it, I would love for you to log on and vote the Hollywood Allstars through to the next successive rounds. It really would be a wonderful opportunity for us to get our record in front of a very large audience.
Bit of an elevation just to, put a bit of a publicity to get a bit more further exposure. That'd be good, wouldn't it, for you?
Right. And, we're very fortunate to have a record out now, but there's a lot of people with records out. And as you probably are aware, even in the UK, there's no shortage of talent. So it's very difficult to break any one thing through. But, I'm very persistent, and I believe with my whole heart in this particular project.
It's good. Hard work does pay off. And would you say there's more talent now around these days than there ever was, say, opposed to 20, 30, 40 years ago?
Well, I think we're probably exposed to more of it simply because of the internet and modern technology, which, gives everyone the opportunity to, basically record a record in their living room. And then with access to the internet and access to YouTube and Spotify, I mean, the last number I heard, I think it was 46,000 songs are uploaded to Spotify daily. Wow. And if you think about that quantity of music, I think there's more. Whether it's good or bad, I guess, is a whole nother discussion. But there's certainly a lot of competition for people's, entertainment dollar these days. No question.
I mean, they do say competition is healthy. However, the floodgates are open now for anyone to be creative, whatever field they want to pursue in.
Right. And, the funny thing is, I'm sure everyone that releases any music believes wholeheartedly in their music. I don't think anyone would put anything out thinking it's not the best they can do. At least I would hope not. But, the truth of the matter is some stuff is great, some not so much. So it's a lot of competition for sure, as you said.
My next question I'm going to ask for you, I know you've name-checked a lot of people you've worked with, collab with. Is there any other artist, musician who's on your list that you like to, jam with or make a record with at the moment?
Most recently, right before COVID, I was doing a short tour with Gene Cornish. Gene Cornish was the original guitar player for the Rascals. Now, whether or not people remember them, by the name of the band. They began in Long Island in the 1960s, and they had a string of really, really great hits. Good Lovin', How Can I Be Sure, Beautiful Morning. I mean, the thing that I loved about playing with Gene is those songs are iconic. The songs were really a joy to play. So I think that would be one person I would love to collaborate with if I were given the opportunity, for sure.
My next question for you: what do you like to do in your free time? I know you sound like you're very busy by the sounds of it, but what does Steve G like to do in when you get some downtime, some chill out time?
Dan, it's funny. The downtime somehow always leads back for me into the songwriting. I mean, I do take, I first of all love the beach. My wife and I love going away to Martha's Vineyard here in Massachusetts in the US. But I'm always on the lookout for things that might turn into a musical hook or things in my own life that might turn into a song. So, in that regard, as a songwriter, there really isn't a lot of downtime because you're really reflecting off of everything else that happens to you in life. The short, simple answer is I love lying by the beach with a nice martini and enjoying the ocean.
That's a good enough answer for me. Finally, any shout outs you'd like to make for your fans?
I would ask and urge everyone, if they can, to please continue to support the record. Again, it's the Hollywood Allstars Field of Grace. It's available everywhere, wherever music is sold, whether you download or stream or like physical product. It's on iTunes, Amazon, Spotify, Pandora. The Hollywood Allstars Field of Grace. I would, urge people to continue to support it. We can't do it without fans. And obviously, again, however good we think it is, it's really up to the people to determine that. So I want to thank them in advance for checking it out.
You also mentioned earlier on in my interview about all the social media platforms now which make it possible for artists to release music. I'm going to ask you, what are your social media platforms where people can find you on?
I would tell them to start with our website. It's www.thehollywoodallstars.net. We're a net website. We are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. If people want to look for me, Steve Gaspar on Facebook, I'm very good about accepting friend requests. My Facebook page has all the information about the songwriting contest I mentioned earlier, which is also on all the Hollywood All-Star pages. So, look for me, find me anywhere. As I said, I welcome people who are interested in the band, and I'm very happy to answer people's questions.
That's awesome. Well, thanks very much for taking time out to speak to me today. My name's Danny Cern. I'm on the syndicated radio stations, which go pretty much everywhere in the world. And I'm going to play your new single now. Would you like to just introduce it on my show?
Sure. You know what, everyone, Dan, I want to thank you in advance, for taking the time to speak with me. Again, it's really much appreciated. And for everyone listening to your program, thank you. I want to continue to listen to Dan. I personally love the show, and I'm flattered to have you play the Hollywood All-Stars Field of Grace. We appreciate it.
My pleasure, and all the best with this record, and we'll connect soon. Okay, Steve, thanks very much for your time out today to speak to me.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate it.